You know, whether you love him or hate him or respect or disrespect him, Brad Marchand, wherever he goes, he causes a stir, and usually championships or good teams follow. So today we're not going to be talking about his playing career per se, but how he came from a small community in Nova Scotia, very beautiful Hammond's Plains, to NHL stardom and Team Canada stardom. Now, Bradley Kevin Marchand, born in Hammond's Plains, Nova Scotia, he's now just turned 37. Is a Canadian professional ice hockey left winger for the Panthers of the National Hockey League, the defending champions. The Panthers picked him up late in the season in a strange trade from Boston. The Boston Bruins were high on Marchand and selected him in the third round, 71st overall in the 2006 NHL draft. Now, there was rumors that the Islanders were going to get him, but Boston made a deal with them to short. Now, raised in Hammond's Plains, the oldest of 4 children, born to 2 local hockey coaches. Between 2004 and 2008, Marchand played for 3 junior ice hockey teams. He was drafted by the Moncton Wildcats, was traded to the Val D'Or and Halifax in 2006, and was traded again to the Halifax Mooseheads in 2007. At the same time, the Bruins were scouting Marchand and made a trade with the Islanders to ensure he was drafted by Boston in 2006. Now, people thought he was going to go in the second round, but it didn't work out. Now, after Halifax failed to get to know in the 2009 Q Championships, with Marchand a healthy scratch for elimination game, the Bruins told Marchand to stay at home and report that fall for training camp. He spent the 2009 season with the Providence Bruins before making his NHL debut in October 2009. Now, 5'9", 180, if he's lucky. Marchand was a member of the Bruins starting roster in 2010, playing on the fourth line and helping the Bruins win the 2011 Stanley Cup Finals after being moved up from the fourth to the first line once the playoffs began. Marchand also helped the Bruins clinch appearances in the finals in 2013 and 2019. As time went on, Marchand was increasing both his number of goals per season and his reputation as a pest. I'm looking at you, Ken Linsman. Now, during the 2018 season, he received a series of fines, suspensions, and media controversies for hits and licks on his opponents. He decided after the season to focus on improving his character, some say he didn't, and followed through by scoring 100 points, including 64 assists in the 2019 season. Marchand's high-scoring season was undercut by a disappointing defeat in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals to the Blues, and as he moved to the 2020 season, he focused on setting up scoring chances for line mates Pierre Bergeron and David Pastrnak. However, Marchand's reputation of suspensions and rule-breaking behavior continued into 2022. It was suspended a total of 9 games in that season alone and became the most suspended player in NHL history in terms of individual suspension, not for total games. Now, again, the Hammond's Plains is a suburb of Halifax. Marchand was the oldest of 4 children, born to Kevin and Lynn Marchand, with all of his siblings born in a 4-year span. His father was known as a goon during his junior ice hockey years, at one time engaging in 40 fights within a 40-game span. Geez, that's senior hockey for the North Shore. After collecting 358 minutes and penalties in one season, Kevin Marchand's coach told him to balance the physical aspect of his game with skill in scoring, a lesson which he in turn taught his children as they began their hockey careers. Marchand, the younger Marchand, began playing hockey at the age of 2 in Lower Sackville and developed an aggressive playing style from a young age. He remembers beginning to fight in games around the age of 13 as an outlet for his excessive energy. The following year, he hit an opponent with enough force to damage the cage on the player's helmet. Brad struggled with his temper throughout his childhood and took anger management classes as an adolescent. As his hockey career progressed, he also began seeing a sports psychologist to address his on-ice frustration. Now, growing up, he became close friends with future NHL player and teammate on the Bruins, minor hockey team, the Providence Bruins, Andrew Bodanchuk, a fellow Hammond's Plains native and his minor hockey teammate for the Dartmouth Subways of the Tantalone Amateur Sports Association. Marchand also played for the school team at Madeline Simmons Middle School alongside Bodanchuk. Now, here it's very strange. In Nova Scotia, they have junior varsity or middle school hockey. In Canada, in New Brunswick, you don't have that. Marchand eventually gained a reputation both for taking penalties and for riling up his opponents during his minor hockey career. He formed intensive rivalries with his Cowell Harbour rivals and with his larger, stronger teammates. Now, when the Moncton Wildcats selected him 24th overall in the 2004 Q draft, he eventually scored 29 goals for Moncton his draft year. and was awarded Rookie of the Year for the squad. Shortly before the 2006 season, Moncton hired Ted Nolan as their head coach, and he took the Marchand's driving determination at once, giving the skater an extensive role on the team. Under new direction, the Marchand scored 29 goals and 66 points in 68 games for Moncton, and led the team to a President's Cup title in the Memorial Cup finals with under 5 goals and 14 assists in 20 playoff contests. The Wildcats ultimately lost in the final to the Remparts. The Bruins of the NHL spent the season scouting Marchand and traded 2 fourth-round draft picks in the 2006 NHL entry draft to the Islanders in exchange for a third-round pick, which he used to select Marchand 71st overall. But still, he was still available by that third round. Anybody could took him in the first 2 rounds, so it's their mistake. Marchand signed an entry-level contract with the squad in October 2007. Now, on January 2nd, 2006, the Wildcats traded Marchand and 2 draft picks to the Val D'Or and Halifax in exchange for Lou Bourdin, Jean-Sébastien Adam, and Ian-Mathieu Girard, with Marchand's part of the trade going into effect just before the 2007 season. He scored 33 goals and 47 assists in 56 contests with Val D'Or. In that season's playoffs, he led the league with 16 goals and 24 assists in 20 games. At the same time, he showed signs of being a grinder, putting up 36 penalty minutes. Although the Lewiston Maniacs swept the Foreur in the Memorial Cup finals, Maniac skater David Perron and goaltender Jonathan Bernier saw a threatened Marchand, both for his offensive ability and the way in which he frustrated his opponents. He returned to the Foreur the following season, putting up 21 goals and 23 assists in 33 contests. Now, ironically, on December 17, 2007, the first day of the Q trading window, the Foreur traded Marchand to the Mooseheads in Halifax, in exchange for forward Maxime Sauvé and 5 future draft picks, including 2 in the first round. Earlier that day, Halifax had acquired Sauvé from the Remparts in exchange for center David Gilbert. When the Foreur had first approached Marchand by potential trades, he had been eager to join his hometown team, where his childhood friends Hillier and Bondarchuk were already playing. He played in 26 regular season games for Halifax, with 29 points in the process, with 18 postseason points in 14 contests. After the Mooseheads lost 3 straight semifinal games to the Gatineau Olympics, however, Halifax head coach Cam Russell made Marchand LT scratch for Game 4, which Halifax ultimately lost as well. And we still don't know what happened there. So then he went to the AHL. So let's go over the rough stats of his... I want to talk about his amateur and minor career. But on Team Canada International, he's played several times. He won gold at the World Championships in 2016, won gold at the Canada Cup that same year, won gold at the 2025 Canada-US Four Nations Face-Off, World Junior 2 golds, 08 and 07, Under-8 Junior World Cup, won gold in 2005, Super Series Canada-Russia 2007, won gold, and representing Canada Atlantic, World Under-17 Hockey Challenge, won a bronze in Alberta. Now, obviously he gets criticized left and right, but we're not talking about that tonight because you can talk to the days come in. Now, 2004, of course, was his big midget season with the Dartmouth Subways. I never had a chance to cover him, and he never played Junior A when I was covering the Maritime Junior League. But at Subways that year, he had 89 points in 49 games. Now, with Moncton in 05, 9 goals, 20 assists for 29 points. Moncton 06, 66 points, 29 goals, 19 points in the playoffs. 07 with Val D'Or, 33 points, 33 goals, 80 points, and he led the playoffs in the league with 40 points in 20 games. And the Val D'Or in 08, 21 goals with them, 11 with Halifax. So 4 years of junior, and Providence again. His first stint with Boston, only 1 point in 20 games, kind of like Mark Messier. But let's talk about his Team Canada numbers because they're tremendous. 50 games at the world level, 50 games, 26 goals, 19 assists for 45 points. But he has won consecutive gold medals, 05, 2 in 07, 1 in 2008, 2 in 2016, and 2025. Again, he was rookie of the month in the AHL in 2009, Stanley Cup champion, 2-time All-Star, 2-time NHL first All-Star team, and 2-time second All-Star team, and a IIHF top 3 player on the Team Canada. So he also holds most overtime goals in Boston history, or shorthanded goals, and most goals in playoff elimination games in Bruins history, and still was traded for basically a bucket of pucks. So Brad Marchand has big connections with Carleton County. He has property in the region. I followed Marchand's career since he was a little kid. I heard about him coming up in midget. But see, the Q back then, it's not dominated as much by, it wasn't dominated as much as the maritime teams like it is now. With Gardner, McDougall, and Moncton, and previously in St. John. I think Brad Marchand is not really appreciated now, but 10 years from now, I think everybody's going to look back and saying, this is probably one of the top players ever in Nova Scotia history and Maritimes history. And like I said, you love to hate him, but I love to have him in the Montreal Canadiens. And why I'm doing this podcast, there's rumors that he might be going to either Toronto or Vancouver next season. I think Florida was a rental. But the only reason why Edmonton hasn't won a Stanley Cup yet, because Marchand, he's a killer, man. You can't stop him, because how do you stop Brad Marchand? Because if you try to hit him, you're going to get a penalty. And you try to outplay him, he's going to outplay you. Like I said, he's got a lot of skills for 5'9", 180 pounds. I don't think, maybe 165, 170. But like I said, Kenny Linsman had the same game. And the first time I met Kenny Linsman in a Boston Bruins alumni game in Woodstock, he looked like fucking Superman. Didn't even say a word. You wouldn't think that's Kenny Linsman. You know, Hextall is always running his mouth, or Hextalls. But if you're a Brad Marchand fan, this is for you, the Boston Bruins. And this podcast is dedicated to all the Boston Bruins fans, because Montreal knocked you out of the playoffs. And the only reason why you didn't make the playoffs because you traded Marchand, where you still could have made the playoffs. You know, Montreal knocked out the Rangers, Columbus, the Islanders, and Boston. So there was an even pat for either Edmonton or Toronto to win the Cup that year, and you're seeing it this year, and you're seeing that right now. So Brad Marchand, I would love to have him on the team, but the problem is, man, holy frig. You know, if you can survive the Q as an Anglophone, 5'9", 180, you got my respect. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing with our Sports File podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, requests are always appreciated, always highly considered.